Record. In the last episode, I talked about how to approach site redesigns in a way that can actually help you increase conversions. And then in the one before that, you heard from Ian Blair, the founder and CEO of Laundry Sauce. And we talked about how they scaled to 8 figures with paid media and no employees. Now, today on episode number 39, get ready. Justin Silver is the co-founder of AAVRANI, a highly successful hair care brand powered by science, inspired by tradition, and who also recently launched in Sephora just this month. Now, we'll be discussing how they've used Instagram DMs as a sales channel and how they've used micro-influencer landing pages to scale. Super interesting conversation coming up. Now, I'm your host, Raphael Paulin-Daigle, and I'm the founder of Splitbase. This is Minds of Ecommerce. Now, this episode is brought to you by, Splitbase. At Splitbase, we help leading direct-to-consumer brands such as Dr. Squatch, Hyperice, and Amika A/B test, design, build, and manage high-converting landing pages and on-site experiences. We generate a combined $100 million in additional revenue for our clients every single year. Our optimization programs pinpoints exactly where your store is losing money most, and then we help you fix it. The result, well, you get increased conversions, AOV, and of course, improved marketing efficiency. So if that sounds great and you want to scale your e-commerce brand profitably, we're the ones to call, and you can do so by going to splitbase.com and requesting a proposal today. All right, Justin, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So as you know, this podcast is all about going deep, right? And dissecting one or two key growth strategies so our listeners can get the most value right away. But just to get some context, before we actually start talking about Instagram DMs and all that good stuff, can you just tell us for how long you've been working on AAVRANI?
Yeah, I met my co-founder back in 2017 when we were first years in our Wharton MBA program. We met online for lunch, Taco Tuesday. So it's been about 7 years
Wow.
since then.
Amazing. So 7 years, I'm sure it flew by and it feels like you started this company yesterday. But
Sometimes.
right, out of those 7 years, what are maybe some of the highlights or things that you're proud of having achieved with the brand?
Yeah, I mean, well, we just launched in Sephora, which was a dream of ours since we first started the company. Outside of that, we've raised over $10 million in investor funding to really grow the brand, and we're sold in almost every country around the world.
Amazing. Pretty awesome achievement. So congrats on that. Now, Justin, I'm really excited for this conversation because when we booked this, you said that you could talk about Instagram DMs as a sales channel. And obviously we see that for like B2B stuff. And but for an e-commerce brand, it was, I think, my first time really hearing about it. And I work with e-commerce brands every day for the past, 9 years. So I'm definitely excited to learn more about that. And then we can touch base on landing pages. But let's start with that. Instagram DMs as a growth tactic. How does that work?
So think about it this way. When people use Instagram, they want to interact. It's not a one-way platform where we're just putting out content and people are like, cool content. All of a sudden I want to buy. That's not the way the world works. There is a
Right.
sales process that people want to be a part of, but they also don't want it to feel super salesy. You don't want to walk into Macy's and have somebody come up to you and try and sell you stuff. That's why those places are going away. So we carved out a new strategy inspired by Kevin Gould from Glamnetic. He was the one who first
Mm.
coined this, as far as I know. And it's called Instagram DMs as a sales channel. So someone follows us on Instagram immediately. We have a real person based in the US who DMs them. And they say, hey, I'm Stephanie. Let's have a conversation. And they have a canned message really asking, what are your hair concerns? So now we're bringing this conversation to the forefront, going from, hey, just a follow of, I think this could be interesting, to let's talk about
That's amazing. And, it's funny, we work with Glamnetics and I wasn't even aware that they did that. Maybe it was after. But so how does it work? Like at scale, you're telling me it's a real person. Obviously, you've got, canned messages and there's a strategy. But at scale, how does it work? Who takes care of that? Why not automate it if that's not part of the game?
Yeah, so I'll be really tactical with you.
Yeah,
So,
perfect.
we started out thinking, hey, we want to have a real person. And
Right.
in a few discussions with different founders, we came across this site. Actually, this is from Stephanie at Mount Lai. Shout out to her. HireMyMom.com. Not a joke. It's a real website. They have amazing women across the United States who are moms who oftentimes have these amazing backgrounds, but they need to work from home. They need flexible hours. And that's exactly what, sending Instagram DMs is. You could do it from anywhere and it's at whatever hours make sense. So we hired a couple of these moms and we give them access to the DMs. Now, me as a follower, I follow AAVRANI. That means that I've shown an intent of interest but not an intent to buy.
Mm,
The goal with the Instagram DM is that it goes from the intent of interest to an intent to buy. So we send that message and it starts with a concern. We're not trying to jam a product down their throat immediately. We want to understand how we as a company can fit into their life. So
mm,
let's say that concern is dry scalp. Okay, perfect. Hey, we appreciate you letting us into that, letting us into your world of you having a dry scalp. Well, we have a dry scalp rescue serum. Now we're going to inform them of that. We're going to link that to the product. But most importantly, we're going to use a little bit of behavioral psychology to try and go from that intent of interest to that intent of purchase.
mm,
Just showing somebody a link, that's AI can do that. But
right.
instead, we actually have this real live person go into the back end of our Shopify. They create a one time code with this person's name. So let's say I'm talking to uh, Anjali. So it will say Anjali 15 will be the code that we take. Now we go and we say, hey, Anjali, thank you so much. You already know about the dry scalp rescue serum. Here is an offer, Anjali 15, for 15% off, and it expires in 10 minutes.
Mm.
You've taken this conversation,
In
which
10
started
minutes.
off as like in 10 minutes. And so that creates a scarcity and an
Mm,
urgency. Those are the two behavioral psychology pieces. Because if it expired in 24 hours, well, I'm likely going to exit and come
yeah.
back to it. If you're just listening, I did air quotes on the come back to it because it's unlikely he'll actually come back. But when you only have 10 minutes, that feeling is like, well, maybe I should try it right now
Yeah.
and I have 15% off, that is sometimes strong enough to push that intention of interest, that intent of interest all the way to intent to purchase. And in that one conversation, in literally just, I don't know, 2 to 3 minutes of a person's time, we're able to convert them, have them try the product. And this is all based on the fact that we know the products are amazing. So for all the listeners out there, if your products kind of suck, don't waste your time. This is not worth it. This only works if your products are really at that best in class level because you need to count on them coming
Mm,
back and then purchasing more and more. And so, how do you scale this thing? It's really about bringing on more people to get this done. We are not thinking about using AI for this. It's a
yeah.
custom conversation. And we think a lot of consumers are not yet fully attuned to, hey, I want an AI bot to help solve my problems. And this is really a nuanced sell. Sure, we could come up with one of these like big charts that, they ask any question or they say any problem and it has some automated answer. But we like the idea of a real person who could solve
Mm,
problems live. Very different than AI for, hey, I'm checking on my shipping or my order number or something
for
like
sure.
that. That's easy. This is really tactical. This is, I guess, scalable in the way that we've done it. And it's been a really great lever for growth.
And I'm sure a slight benefit, and I'm sure you thought of that, right? But like asking for it, what's your main concern, right? Like in a way, it's almost like a survey that you're conducting. You're inserting yourself in your customers, day to day just by asking that question and creating some engagement and interaction. But by asking that, you also get responses directly from your customers as to what they're struggling with, which, like when I think of this type of qualitative feedback, I mean, to me, that's gold when it comes to building landing pages or utilizing that in your ads, right? And you get that directly. So I think that's pretty smart. Um, So question. So people, just to kind of recap this, so people follow you, they get a message from a real human from the Avrani Instagram account and asks about the concerns. The person responds with their concern, and after that, you recommend the product that can help with those concerns. Is there more to it, or is that pretty much the interaction that happens?
Sometimes people go in with multiple concerns. Some
Right.
people say, I don't have a hair concern specifically. I'm just interested in the brand. And that's where that human element comes in. We're able to
Mm,
provide them with more info on what we do as a company, some of our philanthropic efforts. We're able to go into what makes us unique. And more importantly, the person who is behind, driving the DMs at that moment, they're able to look at that person's profile and understand what's important to them. So are we able to, not only provide a hair concern or solve something there, but do we align from a cause perspective? Is there some kind of conversation we can have? And so it ends up being these conversations are sometimes 20, 30 messages long. Oh, I
mm,
saw that you're in this geography. Oh, I saw that you're interested in this. And we're creating real relationships person to person in
mm.
that electronic kind of in the ether DMs way, but it grounds something that is otherwise totally out there into something real. And we hope to form a relationship as best we can.
Amazing. And so how many people actually take you up on that offer? Like you give them a 10-minute timer, which I think is super smart because they have to take action now. But then from like that message to actually going and buying, are we talking about a small percentage? Are we talking about a big percentage? What does the take rate look like?
Yeah, so it's anywhere, depending on the day, between 10 and 15% of
Wow.
people are going to go from intent of interest to intent to purchase. That to us is massive. We're able to really take this and leverage it. Now, when we say intent to purchase, that goes to add to cart. So not
Okay.
all of them are clicking, full purchase, but getting to that add to cart is, we're nearly there. Once we hit that,
Yeah.
we're talking about a couple of emails and the purchase likelihood is sky high. But versus a conversion rate on site, you're always talking about lower single digits, most of the time in that 1 to 3% range. This is
Yep.
well worth our time. And even outside just a pure number, the relationships that we develop with
Yep.
customers have been insane. I mean, some people, this starts a lifelong love with the brand. This starts a
Totally.
lifelong relationship, and that is invaluable.
Yeah, it sounds like on an LTV standpoint, like that is totally worth it as well.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I'm curious now about kind of maybe the tools that you use for that. Like I understand a lot of it is manual, but is there like any platform or tool that you use with your team of moms to respond to all of that?
I mean, there's a back end of Slack. I personally am not a big Slack user, but they're
Right.
on there. But honestly, we like to keep it simple. We think there's a lot of tech and there's a lot of companies trying to sell. And yeah, if you're 1,000 person organization, you need lots of tech, jammed in throughout the process. But for us, most of this happens via email in terms of communicating with our team and text, Slack, and then right into the DMs. It's just Instagram directly. We don't like to
Mm,
put kind of those intermediaries on there. We're not creating tickets. We're not doing all that work that I think once you start to do it because your organization is so big, you end up getting to everything, but it feels less natural and less efficient. We're not at that scale yet. And so we
right.
can really keep it natural and efficient and feel like, at least for the customer, this is very real.
Right. So as you're walking me through this, I mean, it sounds like a strategy that at the end of the day is pretty straightforward, which I think, and the fact that it's working so well is what I think is fascinating. On the flip side, I'm wondering, has there been any challenges that you guys have experienced by doing that? Like, what's been the tougher parts of figuring out that strategy?
Yeah. So when we first started it, we didn't have any kind of nuanced messaging or strategy. We just said, "Hey, this is a cool idea. Let's get people in the DMs." And so we would reach out, "Hey, how's it going?" And then I think that
Mm,
was the original thought was, okay, if we could just begin a conversation,
right.
that's enough. We very quickly learned that is not enough. As a brand, messaging someone, "Hey, how's it going?" or "How's your day been? Thanks for following us." it doesn't open up that real conversation. It doesn't identify that it's a real person, so it could be a bot. It doesn't create anything more in terms of intent to purchase. It really is just a half or not even half effort. And so for us, it was over time unlocking that strategy. I'm giving it to you all right now. So you don't have to go through that learning, but it's, going from this introduction to then this
Mm.
questioning and this kind of conversation to then this recommendation to then some of that behavioral psychology to actually create a purchase intent. All of that was crafted, through trial and error over the course of months.
I love this. Now, obviously, social media is a really important channel for you guys with that strategy, but I know you are also utilizing some micro influencer landing pages. So how does that work?
Totally. So, I mean,
Mm.
we had been in conversation with so many influencers, micro influencers, all of these individuals, and a lot of them loved what we were doing. And we are trying to track, okay, do we give them a discount code and that's how we can track everything? But it just felt like there were so many brands and so many discount codes. We were like, how can we stand out? How can we do something different? And that's
Mm.
when the idea came up of these custom landing pages, knowing that we're not working with thousands of micro influencers. We're talking about a couple of dozen, so between, let's say,
Right.
20 and 50 at any given time. We said, hey, we can actually create a landing page, very simply change out their name on it. This is a copy and paste exercise on the back
Yeah.
end. So it's not taking more than a few minutes per landing page. And then we can actually give these landing pages to these micro influencers. Now,
Mm.
instead of just, hey, use my code
Yeah.
Stephanie12 for 12% off, or these kinds of things, they're actually able to say, hey, go check out my website.
Right.
And now they don't own that website. We own that website.
Right.
But it creates a deeper relationship with the
Mm.
influencer, with the brand, and with the consumer. It kind of ties it all together in one place. And so now they go on, they see a picture of this influencer. It's almost always mobile, over 80% mobile in terms of when we talk about
Right.
influencers going to sites. So they see a picture of that influencer who they were just watching, maybe on an Instagram story. And now that influencer is either holding our product or talking about our product, or we have a TikTok that's linked there. And now the ability to purchase from that page is there.
Mm.
It takes what is otherwise a pretty far apart relationship of someone, hey, I
Right.
use this product, and now, hey, I'm going to go buy that product from this company, and
Right.
brings it right together.
Amazing. And what does that landing page look like? Is it like an Avrani landing page and you're really selling your product? Walk me through kind of just the overall structure and layout.
I would say think of it like a sliding scale. At the top of the page, it's 100% influencer
Okay.
and 0%
Ah.
Avrani. And by the bottom of the page, it's 100% Avrani and
Mm.
0% influencer. Essentially, it's that classic walk down of, we're starting with them,
Yep.
and the product, and it slowly goes up, right? It's them and the product, them maybe talking about the product, a quote from them, and then it moves into more, I'd say, purely Avrani focused, is, product related before and afters. And we're talking, I
Mm.
mean, this is your bread and butter. I think it's the classic landing page, conversion
Yep.
focused, selling. We have a timer on the bottom that's, counting down. We have a limited time offer. And we, of course, have the offer from the influencer, that's special for this landing page only. Now, we've replicated this same offer for the other influencers, but that still gives us, a really unique angle.
Mm.
And it creates a new relationship with these influencers because they're not getting that often.
Right.
To be able to have their face enshrined on a website, their pictures, their videos. If you've got 8,000 followers, that's cool.
Yep.
Now, if you have 800,000 followers, everyone's trying to do that for you.
Right.
But being able to do it at that micro level has been a unique edge.
Mm. Really, really cool. I want to go back quickly to the Instagram DMs because I was
Yeah.
wondering, right? Like you send those DMs and people tell you about their concerns, but what about the times where people just don't respond? Like, do you follow up? What happens in those cases? And yeah, or do you just
Yeah,
let it go?
one of my life things is following up. That's the people who follow up are the people who win at life. But we do follow up, but there's a big drop off. I'd
Mm.
say over 20% of people don't
Okay.
respond at all, and that's okay. I think that's part of this game is you're not going to get 100%. If anything was 100%, everyone would be doing it. So we
Yeah.
send out that initial message. We send out a second message within 24 hours. And then we send a third and final message, just kind of like a, we're around if you ever want to pick up the
Right.
conversation, just so it's not closing a door, but leaving it open. But after those
Mm,
three messages, we end that conversation in terms of our team's time. And
right.
we say maybe they're just not interested in
Totally.
a conversation with us.
What do you say in those follow-up messages? Is it just like the same question again, like, "Hey, what are your hair concerns?" Or
No, we kind of we innovate a little bit on it. The first one is the of course the introduction. Then the second one re-hits on the fact that this is a real person. I think many times
mm,
when you get a DM from a company, even if it says, "Hey, this is Stephanie, and I'm sitting in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Would love to chat with you," you still might think it's fake. It could be
mm,
that AI bot Stephanie, and so we'd say, "Hey, just checking back in again, real person coming at you,
I
would
love that.
love to help if possible." So the second message reiterates that it's a real person. And then the third message is more of a send off saying, "Hey, we're here if you ever wanted to chat, but appreciate your time and thank you. Looking forward to talking soon." Again, keeping it with emojis and filled with realness. So that
Totally.
way it leaves that door open for maybe 6 months from now.
Awesome. Justin, this is amazing. I'm so glad we got to talk about that. I feel like I just learned something that I'm not supposed to know. It's one of those secrets that I finally get to share. In the minute that we've got left, I'd love to know if you were to start Avrani all over again, you go back 7 years with the knowledge that you have now, what would you do differently?
Man, I think it's a great question. Some of the things I'd say that were really powerful were one, getting into hair care earlier. I think hair
Mm,
is on an explosive path. Sephora is investing in hair. The world is turning towards hair. And so we feel really passionate about that growth in that industry. Two, I would say, getting a 3PL faster. We
mm,
packed the first, I think it was something like 10,000 orders by hand. And that
wow.
was a mistake, especially at 3 a.m. on Black Friday, sitting there tying ribbons on boxes. I realized my time could be better spent. But one thing I would not change for the world is picking an incredible co founder. My co founder,
Mm,
Richie Roy, is the reason this business exists along with me. We've been through the ups and downs, and without her, we really couldn't be here today. So I think if you're
amazing.
thinking about, choosing a co-founder, anybody listening, it's one of the most important choices you can make, and I'm just honored that I get to work with her.
Awesome. Well, we've been talking to Justin Silver, who's the co-founder of Avrani. Justin, now people, if people want to learn more about you or Avrani, where should they go?
Yeah, check Avrani out on Instagram and TikTok at Avrani. That's A as in Apple. It's AAV as in Victor, RANI. Check us out on Avrani on Instagram and TikTok. And then, of course, feel free to follow me on Instagram at the Justin Silver. And I look forward to seeing you on there soon.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Justin.